So, good day, Bugohanons. Today is Saturday, January 30, 2021. Welcome to Kanaas Hotseat. My name is Jacob Unabia.
Hello po,
We are called...
Secretary Martin. Janine Recopelacion po, News Editor po ng Kanaas.
So, as you all know, Kanaas is celebrating its 10th year anniversary here in Bogo City, Cebu. And today is a special day because we are joined by probably one of the busiest members of the Duterte cabinet. He is a former broadcast journalist and media executive of TV5, and now he heads the Presidential Communications Operations Office. Please welcome Secretary Martin Andanar. Mayong buntag, sir.
Mang buntag, sir.
Mayong buntag, Ron. Janine, good morning. Good morning sa tanan na naminaw nato, nananaw nato, and to all who will be reading this newspaper.
Daghang salamat, sir.
Maraming salamat.
So, first question, Secretary Martin, what are the developments in the government's national vaccination program?
Can you repeat the question?
What are the developments in the government's national vaccination program?
Makita man nato nga naatay plano. We have laid this plan to the people of Cebu during the time when we went there to launch the communications vaccine roadmap plan. We are now on the stage of opening the gates of the Food and Drug Administration for the vaccines that have been giving emergency use authorization to come in. The government is expecting 2 million vaccines by the last week of February, and these vaccines will be used for the initial 2 million frontliners and other people identified by the Department of Health and by the National Task Force to receive the inoculation.
Okay, Secretary Martin, what is the role of PCOO in establishing, institutionalizing the vaccine roadmap of the Philippines?
It is a very good question. The role of the PCOO is to support the entire National Task Force in its vaccine roadmap plan. Our role is specifically to focus on the communications, on the dissemination of the information. All of the members of the task force of the vaccine cluster have their own communications offices. They have their own public information officers. But it is only the Presidential Communications Operations Office that has the hardware, that has the television, the radio, the news agency platform that can scale up the distribution of the information. The PCOO also has a very important line agency, which is the Philippine Information Agency, that is present in all of the provinces of this country. It is only the PIA that has a massive information infrastructure that can distribute the information down to the barangay level. The role of the PCOO is a very important role. It is a very important agency for the national vaccine roadmap plan to be distributed, to be explained to the rest of the countryside.
I see, sir, Secretary. So I deem that the PCOO has a very vital role in in coming up with an information drive regarding the vaccination program of the government. But however, there are people, Secretary Martin, who are still skeptical about the efficacy of the vaccines which are about to be procured by the government. So, how would you, as head of PCOO, how would you encourage the public to trust the national vaccination program, Secretary?
Ron, we have all of the mechanisms in place for our people to see, to read, to listen, to watch information regarding the vaccine. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to convince everybody. You cannot convince everybody. Coming from the messy situation that the government was dragged into because of Deng Vaxia. So there's a historical uh, context that we are looking at. But then again, the role of the PCOO is to continue to repeat the scientific explanations and the medical methods that are laid by our experts. We also have a panel of experts from the DOH, from the World Health Organization, from the private sector, who are presently explaining to the public the good things about the vaccine and why every Filipino should take the vaccine. The vaccines that we are approving for use are vaccines that are being used also in other countries. Um, it is not the case where the vaccine we will be using will not be used by other countries. For example, the Sinovac is being used in Indonesia. Pfizer is being used in the Western world. Moderna, AstraZeneca. These are Sinopharm. I mean, these are being used in other countries, in the countries of origin, and the material, the information is readily available also online. So we will just have to be persistent in explaining to the public why every Filipino should be inoculated, should at least have himself vaccinated, because it is the only way that our economy can move forward. If we have ourselves inoculated, and if we cannot reach the level of herd immunity, then COVID-19 will still coexist dangerously amongst us, amongst our peoples, who have not uh, who, who have not yielded themselves for inoculation. Uh, for our economy to be able to move forward, now we have to have a healthy population. And before we can even continue our plans to make a comfortable life for every Filipino, as President Dutertes said, we need to be vaccinated. We need to have a strong economy.
Secretary Martin, the president is often criticized because of his pronouncements on live TV regarding the vaccines, on whether or not magpa-vaccinate pa siya or dili, right? How does this affect the opinion with the public regarding the vaccination program, or do you have um, meron bang mga kalainan?
We already know that the president says so many things on television, uh, and I guess for the last 4 or 5 years in this administration, that has been the norm. I do not have any data with me to tell you what the reaction of the people is. But what I can tell you is that with the presence of the entire member of the National Task Force around the president, when the president says all of these remarks, it only means that the president knows what is happening, number one. Number two, is always hands on deck with the vaccine situation in our country. And number three, that the sincere concern is there for the Filipino public. We also know for a fact that the way that the government managed COVID-19 in our country has been very outstanding. I say that outstanding in a sense that we do not have the same high numbers of patients compared to other countries in Europe, in the Americas, and even in the Middle East. So, what is important is how the government is managing it.
Yes po. You said po na, 'di ba, many cases pero gikan sa nagkataas padung ta
Mm.
nagaubos by last quarter sa last year 2020, and then karon po especially po sa Cebu dito po sa amin, um, there are instances na tumataas po talaga. What can you say
Oo.
about it? I mean,
Well, gwapo nga na pangutana, Janine, because we are all aware that we are reopening the economy. So, looking at it from March of last year, March of 2020,
yes po.
until today, we have essentially locked down the entire Philippines
Yes.
until the early part of December when we started reopening the economy. And now you can see that we have opened the economy further.
Yeah.
So when you have economic activities happening,
Yeah,
when
people
you
gather.
yes, yes. So it is already expected that there will be a possibility of an increase in people getting infected by the coronavirus. But you will also notice that because of the health protocols that have become a habit for most of us, for majority of the Filipinos, wearing mask, washing hands,
Yeah.
keeping safe physical distance.
Mm.
These have all contributed to the well-being of every Filipino. I suppose if we did not have that lockdown and the uh, the messages that we repeated every minute
Right.
about the health protocols, then it would have been impossible for the majority of the public to catch the habit of physical distancing, hunaw og
Hugas.
hugas og kamot,
Right.
tapos magsuot og kanang face mask, face shield. Dili nato na makuha, and it doesn't happen every overnight.
Right.
We did this for almost a year already. This
Yes.
coming March, 1 year na siya.
Mag 1 year
So,
na.
but it is a reminder also nga it is still there. COVID-19 is still there. And until we get that vaccine, we must be very, very, very careful. And even once we get injected, kinahan lang yun nga magbantay pod ta. Ampingan nato atong lawas because dili naman coronavirus ang ang nadya or
Yes.
COVID-19. I mean, there's so many coronaviruses. Uh, there's so many viral or infectious diseases
Exception.
around us that we have to be very careful. In fact, I realize, Janine, I think one of the reasons why all of us, or at least I can speak for myself, I think one of the main reasons that I've always gotten the flu before the pandemic. I'd get the cold, the cough, the
Mm.
itchy throat, is because of our habits of beso beso, shaking hands,
Right. Pero
and
Secretary,
yeah,
you travel around the country these days. Kita na namo. But what can you say about this past 10 months? Na nabata diha nga naka-adjust na ta to the new normal, or naapata sa stage nga padung pa lang sa adjustment, or naka-adjust na bagyod?
um, well, murag lisod nga tubagon kay depende man gud na sa tao, no?
Mm.
But sa akong paglibot sa tibuok Pilipinas, I really noticed the change. Pero doon na pagyapoy mga uban nga mo shake pagyapog hands, but
Kahig ulo.
imo na lang likayan, so siko na lang, siko na lang. Ah, um, doon na pagyapoy mga taong dili mag face mask. Pero ang akong maingon nimo is katong mga establishments, all of the establishments that I visited, kanang mga fast food, mga karinderya, tanan. Pag face mask jud tanan, wa ako makitag server na wa mag face mask, nag face shield. So tanan nga mga establishments where people converge, kato mga empleyado dito, they really follow strict protocols. Unya, I realized, I also observed that they also remind us, customers, to do the same. The
Follow.
only, yeah, the only few people nga di gyud mo sunod mo tong people that you meet randomly sa
Right.
gawas sa mga establishment. So I guess by reminding people nga atong ma-meet ba nga oy pag face mask diha, oy pag kuan diha, pag face shield diha, pag sure diha kay akdan ta, uh, that becomes our civic duty, Janine, no, to remind each person that we meet nga, come on, ayog kumpiyansa.
That's the new normal. Like you
That's
say,
the new normal.
that's the
So
new
siguro
caring.
caring is face masking.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay, Secretary, a news report came out the other day stating that the country's GDP has
Mm.
shrunk to negative, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken, negative 9.5%.
Mm-mm.
How do you interpret this, Secretary? Or what are the economic plans of the government to boost the economy and recover our major losses
Mm-mm.
last year?
Oo, niubos gyud ang atong gross domestic product. Kini nagpasabot nga dako gyud ang negative effect aning COVID-19. Apan dili naman sa Pilipinas,
Right.
tibok kalibutan, pero doon na po yung mga nasod nga naka-recover. For example, China. China has already recovered. The last time I read uh, the papers, I think China ang pinaka-paspas karon, no, na naka-recover aning COVID-19. But lisod gini siya. The only way to recover from a very low GDP and from this worst recession that we are experiencing. Murag mo ning worst recession run since World War II, no?
Yes, yes, Secretary.
the only real way to do this is, number one, to be vaccinated. Okay, even if you have industries with robust investments, even if you have so many investors, if the people are sick, then you don't have manpower, or you don't have workforce, you don't have buyers. There will be no demand. And when there's no demand, then uh, you'd have high supply all the time. Prices will go down. But if your people are sick, then nobody can even manufacture. So key here is a healthy population. Going back to the basics. Although we see that we have industry players from different manufacturing areas, the service industry, that are still willing to give it a go. Pero mo lagi na nga pananglitan. I'll give you an example. Uh, Tourism. We all want to go out.
Right.
We all want to go out. But if if we see people who are infected all the time,
Mahadlok
then
na.
it will stop us. Madlock ta. We don't. It won't. It will stop us from going out and seeing the beauty or rediscovering the Philippines. So it boils down to vaccination and maintaining health protocols.
It's a tough balancing act, Secretary po, no? Uh, how about, kumusta naman ang atong mga program sa PCOO, sir? The other day, I was watching PTV4 and I was kind of impressed with the advancements that you have campaigned for our national station, TV station. Um, how about the other agencies under your wing, Secretary? Kumusta na ang ato ang progress?
Thank you for that. You mentioned PTV for Ron. We just unveiled the Mindanao Media Hub in Davao City. It's the biggest, and it's a state-of-the-art facility that we can be very proud of. The biggest state-of-the-art facility outside Metro Manila. Even bigger than anything that you have there in Cebu. Uh, the best government media facility in the Philippines, and the best media facility outside Metro Manila. So beating all of the private TV and radio stations outside Metro Manila. We're very proud of that. So we've unveiled that, and the president was so happy. Senator Bongo was so happy that DBM Secretary Wendell Avisado acceded to my request for a Visayas Media Hub to be built in Cebu.
Right.
Now,
Next.
Looking forward to that, Secretary.
Looking forward.
di
Sir,
na magpapil di Cebu.
di ta
So,
muapas ta, muapas.
Basta. And please allow me to say this. You have the facilities, but you don't have enough trained personnel. You don't have an institution that can train government communicators, information officers, public information officers, from the national down to the barangay level. So what did we do? We proposed the Government Communications Academy. It was approved last year, but the budget was set aside for COVID-19 purposes. But the good thing is that it was reapproved for 2022. Now we have 80 million pesos to build the first Government Communications Academy in Manolo Fortich, Bukidnon. a very beautiful city, just like Baguio City. Cold, you have nature, you have farms. Um, it's always 18 to 24 degrees on average, 25 degrees all year round. It's a great place to study. So now the government will have its first Government Communications Academy. Matudloan tong sa barangay information officers all the way to the national government. We will be all on one page when we are talking about communications. Dili na ka maglisod og interview kay information officer sa barangay Poktoy, sa barangay. So, these are the things that we want to achieve under the Duterte administration nga. Kuan gid siya ba? It's a whole
Unified.
of nation. Yeah, kuan gid siya what do you call that? It's a complete
Complete.
cycle. It's a
Cycle. Yeah.
complete cycle. Tudlo ka, then you have the facility to interview, then you have the people who can do the interview also. So we're very excited about this, and we should be able to ground break, hopefully by June of 2021 this year. And
Right.
mahuman na to ning project before the president steps down.
Nice.
We're looking
Uh,
forward to that.
Yes. On that note, Secretary, dissemination of truthful information is very important, especially in this time of pandemic, Secretary, no? And once you open your social media accounts, daghan kaayo mga fake news nga gipang alter nga mga news nga lahi na kaayo sa tinuod. Now, how can we convince the public to not patronize fake news? Unsa may ato
Mm.
ang posible nga mabuhat ani, Secretary?
How can we convince the public? Well, it's not difficult to convince the public as long as we get the assistance also of the private sector. Now, since 2016, I have been fighting fake news. As a matter of fact, in 2017, I was the first secretary or minister to introduce a roundtable discussion on fake news during the ASEAN 2017. So we brought it to the table. I brought it there, and it became the precursor of our discussion about fake news during the 2018 ASEAN in Singapore. And we discussed it. I went there, we discussed it, and it's just a very successful campaign in the ASEAN. Now we have dismissed this information because of that roundtable discussion. The PIA is the leading agency of the Dismiss This Information campaign. We have the Youth for Truth program. It is a media literacy program teaching the youth how to be responsible sharers of information. We have Director Vinci Beltran hosting the Youth for Truth, and they are very active on a weekly basis. They talk to different youth organizations around the Philippines. They engage with them. We also have it in our COVID-19 website, the covid19.gov.ph. One corner there is dedicated to dismissing this information. This is not going to be an overnight, and this is not going to be a one-time delivery. The Dismiss This Information campaign should be an ongoing campaign. This should not be limited to government. This should be in the private sector. This should be in the civil society sector. It should also be in churches. We should all be involved in not only informing, but also teaching. We should be involved in the media literacy program of informing people, informing our friends that para malikayan ang fake news, we should be responsible in sharing information on our social media pages. And that is why this all comes in. This all just circles and then and then it resides in one good institution. This is the Government Communications Academy. Because kung doon na kay Communications Academy that will continue to teach ways to share what is right or developmental information or news, then you have this institution that will continue to do this even when I'm gone out of this government. Bisag wa na tong mga kauban kami na initiate ani because it's already institutionalized.
Right.
And you know what? Can I tell you this also? I'm very proud that under my watch, and under the auspices of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and Senator Bongo, we were able to sign the first policy that clearly defends media practitioners. This is the Presidential Task Force on Media Security. And I'm very proud of this, not only because napirmahan siya, niya advocacy siya ni Presidente, but you know, Janine and Ron,
Yes, sir.
this became AO number 1. Pinakauna nga administrative order ni Presidente. AO number 1 creating the Presidential Task Force on Media Security, which I co-chair with Secretary Guevara. We have our director, Undersecretary Joel Egco, which I hired, by the way, and I recommended to the President. Not only that, because of our leadership, because of the President's leadership, the PCOO was able to operationalize. Kiniya, you must be proud of this too, as media practitioners.
Yes.
Executive Order number 2. What is Executive Order number 2? The freedom of information. Now, no government before us has done this. AO number 1, Presidential Task Force on Media Security. EO number 2, freedom of information. And then, doon na pa may usa ka bill na we're very proud of, and because of the support of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, because we initiated the ball rolling, and with Congressman Nina Taduran, the Media Workers Welfare Bill or Act. Pasado na niya sa Congress. First time
Nice.
nito po. Pasado siya sa lower house, first, second, third reading. Now it's on its way to the Senate. And we have a supporter there in Senator Tito Soto, the Senate President himself. So, barring any difficulty or any untoward opposition to this will become a law by this year. The President will sign this, the first Media Workers Welfare Act protecting you, both of you and me,
Nice.
ensuring our security. And we have the People's Broadcasting Corporation right there in Congress, and this bill also should transform PTV into a BBC, which the President promised. Because you cannot have a BBC type of management if you do not enact it. It needs a law para ma-secure ang tenure sa mga magpadagan sa PTV, o nya masigurado nimo ang continuity of program.
Right.
So we need that People's Broadcasting Corporation. So, these are the things that I'm very proud of.
Oh,
Yes.
very
We are
excited
looking-
for that. Looking forward
Yes,
to
we are
that,
looking forward.
Secretary. Secretary, since mga less than 2 months na lang, no, and then mag 1 year na, no, ang COVID dire sa atua. Now, what can you say, or what is your message to the Filipino people as we inch closer to a year of battling the pandemic, Secretary? Especially sa amua dire.
Oo. ang akong message sa tibok nasod, ipadayon lang ang atong health protocols. Maminaw ta sa gobyerno because the government meets every day, talks to scientists. The government works every minute to ensure that we protect our lives. Walay gabuhaton ang gobyerno nga para makadaot sa atong katawhan. So let's just follow the protocols. Hapit na ni. We're almost done. We are a few weeks away from having the first 2 million frontliners vaccinated. There is a process. There are stages from research, procurement, training our medical staff, our health workers, distribution of the vaccines, assessment of the vaccine. This will be the biggest vaccination undertaking of the government, perhaps since the Spanish flu. And this is by far the biggest inoculation program that the world has seen in the history of vaccines. Kay dungan ang pagkuan, ubay-ubay pod ang pag-vaccinate sa tibuok kalibutan. So, gamay na lang. Antos lang kabay. Ingon si Archbishop Palma, mag-ampo kita, mag-amping kita, o kinahanglan doon na po tayo ambag, tabang po ta sa atong mga isag katawhan, no? Para we can get over this once and for all.
All right, Secretary, before we let you go, no, after your tenure as head of PCOO, na ba kay plano mo balik sa TV5?
Pasalamat ko kay Boss Manny Pangilinan, kay nag-inguman siyang the doors are open for me to go back.
Yes.
Ako magpabilin kong media man. In fact, wa man gid ko gibiya sa pagka media man ako, Ron o Janine, until now.
Yes, sir.
You see me Monday to Saturday hosting my own program. In fact, tungod sa pandemic, because of the laging handa. By the way,
Public briefing.
we also initiated in 2016 the Laging Handa Crisis Communications Plan. Muna ang atong communications sa government and the kapisanan ng mga broadcasters sa Pilipinas is very good. Dungan-dungan, ubay-ubay atong mensahe, one message lang. The entire nation, all the communications platforms, whether government or private o salam, because of Laging Handa. I started doing the newscast again on a daily basis. So it's good because the president got us because of our skills, our talent in media. And I guess this goes for every person na kung unsay gihatag sa imo sa Ginoo nga skills or talents, ayaw kalimot nga maunang nagdala kung aha ka karon. So this has brought me to my position as the Secretary of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, and I shall be continuing. I shall be using my skills to the best of my ability so that I can serve the people of the Republic of the Philippines.
Looking forward ko, Secretary, sa reunion ninyo ni Lord De Vera. All right, last Secretary, what is your message for us here, members of Kanaas?
Yes.
We are celebrating our 10th anniversary, the
10 years
longest running community newspaper here in Northern Cebu.
Congratulations to Kanaas for operating for the last 10 years. And you know, you are the beacon of hope. You are the light of public service. You're also the harbinger of free and unhampered uh, journalism. It is very important for us to be able to have a marketplace for ideas and a newspaper that can accommodate all of these ideas, whether it's for you or it's not for you, whether it's for him or not for her. But what is important is it's constructive criticism that you have. What is important is that when we write to improve the lives of every Filipino. We write to improve the services, the performance of our leaders. We do not write just to bring down a person. So that is what's important. And that's the reason why you are still around. 10 years of long, true blue journalism in your community. So mabuhay ka muntanan. And I hope to see you face to face one
Oh,
of these days
one of these days. Looking
there in
forward.
Bogo. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so much.
Secretary, for this opportunity, especially busy kay Kano.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next time, Secretary, I hope magkakita na ta personally. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Okay.
problema. Oh,
So,
we
daghang
will do that.
salamat, Secretary, PCOO Secretary, Martin Andanar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
God bless you po.
Thank you.
God
Thank you.
bless. And to your
Bye-bye.
future plans. Bye po.
Bye-bye. See you in Bogo.
See you in Bugo.